Welcome to my channel. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to my channel. I want to thank every single one of you that has subscribed. I have over 415 subscribers now. I want to thank every one of you that likes my videos, that comments on them, and that shares them. I'm still amazed that I have this many people that want to hear what I have to say. But as long as I have this many people that want to hear what I have to say, I'm going to say something. That's the point of my channel, is to speak out. Tonight, I want to ask you a question. Do you vote for Democrats? And if you do, why on earth do you vote for Democrats? I can understand why you might have voted for them in the past. If I'd have been old enough to, I would have voted for JFK. He was a good president. But today's Democrats, 2023 Democrats, these are the people that have policies that support the mutilation of young children, policies that support bringing terrorists and murderers and rapists into our country unvetted, policies that support having dancers, transvestite dancers, in kindergarten schools. How on earth can you vote for people like that? How can you do it? Policies that support having men in women's bathrooms and men competing in women's sports, destroying their records. How can you support that? Policies that support killing babies in the womb. I don't understand how you can support that. I really don't. I want to show you something. This is a black man who's had enough of the Democratic Party.
So let's say you open the borders to your country and let in 7 million new people who had no connection to America whatsoever. Didn't speak the language, weren't from here illegally, but you did that. That would make the society less cohesive than ever. And then you so mismanaged the economy that it was on the way into recession. That's the last moment you would want to make Americans hate each other on the basis of race, because if you did that, the whole thing could just blow up. Like, that's too crazy and reckless. But that's exactly what the current administration, Joe Biden's administration, is doing. Here's Joe Biden.
Innocent men, women, children hung by a noose from trees, bodies burned, drowned, castrated, lynched for simply being black. Nothing more. Hard to believe, but that's what was done. And some people...
Yeah, and you know whose party did that? The Democrats.
Still want to do that.
Some people still want to do that. Who are those people exactly? Vince Everett Ellison is producer of Will You Go to Hell for Me, an amazing documentary he's made that we showed you earlier. He joins us tonight. Vince, thanks so much for coming on. Some people still want to do that. Who is the president talking about? Who are these would-be lynchers?
He's probably talking about Democrats because they were the ones doing it before. When we look back over history, the Democratic Party were the ones doing Jim Crow that was lynching and killing and castrating black men, and they're still doing it now. You go into any inner city in America, the Democrats run it. I mean, it's a freak show, man. You got Lori Lightfoot and Pete Buttigieg and that crazy Sam Brinkman guy, that was running around putting women's clothes on. I mean, that's just who they are. It's an insane asylum now that's taken over the Democratic Party. And we have to just start calling it exactly what it is. The Democratic Party heaven is an American hell. It is no doubt. You go to any big city and you see dysfunction. You've seen that they've released this hip-hop culture and they've destroyed every institution that protected the children from these bad things. And now the N-word, the B-word, the W-word is being sung by these artists, and they're elevated. They go to the White House and the Super Bowl now. So how can these young men and young women not believe that they're not that? So you got Lori Lightfoot. You got Joe Biden running for re-election. They should be apologizing for ever been in office. They're the worst president and the worst mayor in history. Lori Lightfoot has presided over a dystopia. Every weekend we look at how many children are dying in Chicago. We look at what Joe Biden has done. I mean, what are they going to run on? We want to sexually groom your children. We want to have grown men go to the bathroom with your daughters. We're going to keep your children locked in failing schools. We want to let fentanyl come across the border. That's the only thing they can run on. So what do they say? They hate you because you're black, and we can protect you. Well, look, C.S. Lewis said hell is a choice, and it is, but you can unchoose it. They talk about systemic racism and institutional racism. Well, if it is institutional racism, they are the ones that provide it because they run all the institutions in the black community. They run the schools, they run the churches, they destroyed them all. Yeah, it's institutional racism caused by them. They talk about white privilege. Well, let me tell you something. It is privilege to be white, and it's also a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to me to live in America. It's a privilege to me to be a Christian. And for the Christians in the ghetto, let me tell y'all, you can come above this. You're an heir of Jesus Christ. You're a son of God. Nobody can oppress you. Nobody is better than you. There's no racism that can hold you down. Stand up, look at these people in the eye, and tell them who you are. You are an American. You're strong, you're resilient, and you'll get through this.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention, the Democrats are also the ones that support destroying the police forces and destroying the court system and allowing criminals to go free. No bail. I mean, what kind of lunacy is this? And if you vote for that, what is wrong with you? Your brain is screwed up. You're crazy. You cannot possibly believe that's good for the country. Tucker recently interviewed Vince on his X channel that he has now. And I want you to hear some of this. It's some of the same, but it's also some new stuff.
Doesn't seem like a good man to ask. He's the author of Crime, Inc. He joins us now. Vince, thanks so much for coming on. So as with so many other stories, the origin
thanks for having me, Tucker.
Of COVID, it's a blessing to have you. We now know what actually happened, but the question then is, what do you do with that knowledge? We know that the U.S. government, Tony Fauci, worked with the Chinese to create the virus that overturned the American economy, but what do we do with that knowledge? What do we do with the knowledge that George Floyd was not actually strangled to death by a cop?
We have to acknowledge the people that gave it to us and why. See, George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man. These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them. He was poor, he was uneducated, he was a drug addict, he didn't have a job, he was down there begging and crying and asking the white people to not kill him. To a Democrat, to a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man.
Yeah. Think about this. Who are the black people that the Democrats have elevated in recent years? A young boy in St. Louis who attacked a cop and tried to get his gun. A young boy in Florida who attacked a fellow citizen and tried to beat him to death by banging his head against the concrete. A man who was a multiple offender, multiple arrests and convictions, doing drugs, died from a drug overdose, but they say he was murdered by a cop. These are the people, the black people, that Democrats think are heroes. Think about that for just a minute. They can't elevate someone like a Ben Carson, like an Oprah Winfrey. They can't elevate those people, but they have to elevate the dregs of society, the people that are just on the edge and committing crimes and doing stuff wrong. Those are the people that they have to elevate. And you want to vote for them? I don't understand. You got to explain it to me. If you vote for Democrats, you got to tell me in the comments what's wrong with your head. Tell me in the comments why you think the Democrats are a good choice. Now, don't get me wrong. Republicans suck too. But at least the Republicans don't stand up for no bail, reducing the police force so that crime can increase, sexually altering the lifestyles and the lifetimes of innocent children, allowing people to come across our border unvetted so that we get terrorists and rapists and murderers coming here and we don't even know who they are or where they are, and keeping the blacks trapped in inner cities where it's almost impossible for them to get out and to succeed. That's who you vote for. You got to explain that to me. I don't understand it.
So he has to be elevated. Look, not a few days ago, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden celebrated hip-hop music. They had a celebration of hip-hop.
Hip-hop culture is America's culture. It is a genre. It is music and melody and rhyme. And hip-hop is also an ethos.
A music genre that calls the black man the N-word, calls women the W word and the B word, talks about misogyny, shooting police, smoking dope, selling dope, fighting, killing, acting a fool. They celebrated this genre. Why? Because this is how they see black America.
Exactly.
They see us the same way they see George Floyd. And they have to make more of us because everywhere they rule, you know, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the Berlin Wall in the 60s and said, if you think that communism is great, let them come to Berlin. Well, if you think that the Democratic Party is great, let them come to Detroit. Let them come to Chicago. Let them come to St. Louis. Let them come to LA, Portland, Seattle, Memphis. Anywhere where they rule, you will see George Floyd's all over the place. And they're proud of them. In Baltimore, Maryland, they spend $21,000 per child for every child up there inside the school district. Not one school is proficient in math, science, or reading. But they keep it going every year. Why? Because they're producing George Floyds.
But
and George Floyd's vote for the Democratic Party.
But why would, so when most of us, you, me, I think all normal people look at George Floyd's life, you think this is a disaster. This guy never added anything. He took a lot in prison at least 8 times. I mean, his life was a tragedy at best. Why would you want more people like that?
Because he votes for the Democrat Party, and then he teaches his children to vote for the Democrat Party, and then these white Democrats can feel superior to him. Yeah. He can be controlled by them. Just like, think about an old slave plantation, talk about back in the day, how they wanted their slaves to act. Subservient, obedient, ignorant, you know, doing what he was told, not asking any questions, having a slave mind, being dependent on them. This is how they want black men to be in America. This is how they want the whole black community to be. This is why it started in the civil rights movement. When Martin Luther King Jr. in his I Have a Dream speech said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. He said 5 times in that speech that we were not free. It turned the Declaration of Independence on its head, because in our Declaration of Independence it said that our freedom was an unalienable right given us by God. John Locke in his second treatise of government said that an unalienable right is a right given from God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsettlable. The government cannot touch it. It supersedes law. It supersedes the Constitution. However, King said that we was coming to government and to the white man for our right to be free. Even at the end of the speech, he said, on some certain day we'll be free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. He said in that speech, when will we be satisfied? He said, we will never be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. That's a fancy way of saying never. And so black people heard that speech and said that we were not free here in America. And we make our children recite that speech every single year on King's birthday. And they say in that speech, the Negro is still not free. George Floyd was a slave in his mind. And the civil rights movement caused him to be a slave in his mind. And today they're still marching, 60 years later, telling black people, you're not free.
Think about that. I'll put links to both of these in the description. But give it some thought. Ask yourself this question. Why do I vote for people that support these policies? for people that want to put criminals out with no bail, for people that want to reduce the police force, making crime more increasing and more visible and more dangerous for everyone. People who support opening up the borders to bring in every kind of person you can possibly imagine. Sure, lots of good people, lots of hardworking, poor people that are just trying to get a better job, but also criminals and rapists and terrorists and murderers and drug dealers across the border with no vetting, no checking on them, no follow-up, no nothing. Why would you support people like that? Look, the Republicans are a lousy choice, okay? They're a really lousy choice. What we really need is we need another party. We need a party of patriots, people that believe in the Constitution and want to stand up for America regardless of what the issue is. Put America first. But we don't have that. All we have is Republicans and Democrats right now. We need to be voting for people that stand for the Constitution. Probably half of the Republicans don't even do that. But the Democrats, my God, how can you possibly vote for them? What is wrong with you? Do you hate America? Do you want to see America destroyed? Because that's what the Democrats are doing. They're destroying America. And they will continue to destroy America until somebody wakes up and says, we've had enough. We're going to throw you out. You're no longer going to be our leaders. We're going to find people who believe in America. As always, I pray that you will prosper, that you will be in health, that you'll have a long life, and that God will keep you safe. And I pray that He will do the same for every single person that you love. And I pray most of all that you'll be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, you will let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. This is the Vietnam Era Vet out.